Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Rachel and this is my channel Homesteading with Rachel, where I talk all things homesteading, basically growing food, cooking, sustainable living. That's the kind of things that I enjoy doing, and I share what I'm learning and what I'm doing here on the homestead. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a worm farm directly in your vegetable garden. So you can have a separate worm farm, which are usually like plastic containers that are stacked on top of each other, and you can feed all your kitchen scraps. And then you can take the worm castings, which is all the great stuff that the worms produce after they break everything down, and put it into your garden or into your pots. You can also create worm juice, which is the stuff that comes out the bottom, and usually worm farms have a little tap where you can collect that. You can dilute it and water your plants with it and give them a nutrient boost. So worm farms are wonderful. They're a great way to reduce waste in the kitchen, so all your kitchen scraps can be fed to the worms. They break it down and provide some goodness for the garden. Now, you don't have to have a separate worm farm. So I've tried a new method. Rather than creating a worm farm, I've created a method. Well, I haven't created it myself. I learned it from elsewhere about making a worm farm directly in my garden bed. So I have raised garden beds as well as in-ground ones. So what I've done is I've put one worm farm into each raised bed. So I've just popped it into the middle of the bed. And I did show the first part of how to make the pipes in another video, but I thought I didn't end up finishing it because I couldn't get any composting worms. So I thought that I would just make a video today that just shows you the whole process of how to make one of these worm farms. So I've got another one here behind me. It's just a pipe in the middle of the garden there. So today's video, I'm just going to take you through and show you how to make an in-garden worm farm. And I think one of the advantages is that having a separate worm farm is great, but then you need to think about harvesting and taking out the worm castings, then adding another layer, bringing those worm castings to the garden, getting all the juice, the worm juice, diluting it, watering your garden. If you're anything like me, I just try to simplify things because I'm likely to sort of forget to do that or lose track of, where I'm at. Do I need to harvest it? How much is there? Whereas this method all just happens within your garden. You don't have to harvest the worm castings because it'll be there in your garden. The worm juice will seep out of the holes and into your garden and give your plants a nutrient boost. And really the only thing I'll need to do is make sure I feed them. So just take the lid off and check to see how the scraps are going and put some more scraps in for the worms to eat. So that's all you have to do. It sort of cuts back some steps, makes it easier. I think it works really well for raised beds like this where they're either round. I've got some round ones and some square ones, or they're probably more rectangle, where I can just pop one in the middle of the garden and it all does its stuff right there. I probably wouldn't do them in my other raised beds, which are behind me here. So they're long beds down in the garden. I'd have to do quite a few, so I don't think it'll work very well there. But I think definitely in these garden beds here, they work perfectly fine. So now I'm going to show you how to do it so that you can do it yourself. We had some of this PVC pipe just hanging around at home. If you've got some hanging around at home, or you know someone who might have some just sitting in their shed that they're not going to use, or offcuts, go and get that before purchasing new ones. You might even be able to get it from your local tip or salvage yard or something like that. If you really have to, go and buy some, but we had this lying around. So I've got these lengths of pipe that I have cut to 50 centimeters each. And then as you can see, I have drilled holes randomly through it. They're about sort of 1/2 centimeter wide. And I've left no holes towards the top because this this top part will stick out of the ground. And then I'll show you the process of what we do inside that. But basically, it's going to be like a little mini worm farm. So I'll put in some newspaper, some maybe straw, some kitchen scraps, and I will have to get composting worms, and they are different worms to what you get in your garden. They're sort of smaller, thinner and red in colour. So I'll buy some composting worms and sort of put some in each of these pipes and then continue to feed it. I will need to cover the top with something, but that's what I'm doing. So I've spent some time, I've got all the pipe, I've drilled all my holes, and I've already put 2 into 2 of the garden beds. So I'll go and show you, and then I've got this other one. We'll get started with this in one of the other beds. All right, so we're going to work on this raised bed first, which doesn't have much in it, just a few azinia, which the bees are still getting into. They're doing pretty well. And I've got a rhubarb, and I have some self-seeded parsley that I'm going to let grow there too. But we're just going to dig. Oh, yeah, I just remembered I put some kitchen scraps compost and dug it underneath a few spots in this garden.
Right.
So that's why you got a few eggshells.
I was wondering how I got eggs in here. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not growing eggs.
Pretty sure the chickens don't come over here.
No. But the rest of it seems to have composted all right, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'll have to go deeper there.
Okay. Yeah, I had a few sort of patches where I just dug a hole and put some kitchen scraps in to try and improve the soil. That soil actually looks pretty good until you get further down when you hit that sandy stuff.
Oh, that's what we put in first.
which is the crappy soil, but so long as the top bit's all good.
Let's have a look at this.
How does that go? Oh yeah, I reckon that'll be pretty good. And then by the time we put some compost on top. Perfect. Very good. Another one done.
Another one bites the dust.
Another one, yeah. And now for the wheelbarrow load of compost to go on here. And I am going to finish off the worm farm tubes that I started a week or so ago. So I've got the pipes in the ground, but I couldn't finish it because I couldn't get any composting worms locally. My parents came and visited yesterday, and my dad was able to go and buy me a box of composting worms. So now I can finish it off. So what I'm going to do is show you how to fill the tubes. So what I'm going to do is put some straw, hay or something like that right at the bottom. And then I've got some newspaper that I've wet down. So I'll put a nice thick layer of newspaper on top of that. Then I'll put my worms in, and then some more newspaper on top, and then I put the scraps on top of that, and then I'll just keep feeding the scraps from the top. I will need to cover the top of the pipes. I have a feeling we may have some little caps for the pipes hanging around. I'll go and have a look and see if I can find them. Otherwise, I'll find something else to pop on top just to cover up the top. The worms I've got here. So there are a box of worms. These were from Bunnings. These are 500. I think it's 500. Approximately 500. I assume not all of them will be adults. There'll probably be a lot of babies in there and possibly some eggs as well. So 500 worms, and I have about five worm farms. So it'll be about 100 in each. I'm not going to count them. I'm just going to roughly pick up, because it's I'll show you in a moment what it looks like, but I'll just sort of scoop up. A lot of the worms will be right down the bottom, so I'll scoop right down, and I'll just kind of do 5, divide it into 5, and then just put it into each pipe. So I'll show you what the worms look like in a moment. Okay, oops. So these are the worms, and they're in this medium here. I don't know if I dig down you'll be able to see them. Oh yeah, there's some down there. I don't know if you can see that, but they are down the bottom there. So yeah, I'll just sort of scoop up 5 lots, make sure I actually have some worms in each one, and put them into the pipes. I realised I didn't end this video, but I'm going to end it there. That is how simple it is to make a worm farm directly in your raised garden beds. So you can get that done very easily in a short amount of time on the weekend. It took me a little bit longer because I couldn't get my hands on any composting worms. I couldn't get them locally, but if you can get them locally, really, really simple with a few pipes that you might have lying around, and some kitchen scraps and some straw, and put your worms in and a bit of, wet newspaper, and your worm farms are done. So get out there and have a go, and let me know how it goes if you do have a try. And if you like this content, if you're interested in growing your own food and gardening and homesteading, please hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified when I post a new video. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that inspired you to get out in the garden, and I will see you all next time.